Randy Moss's career started flying high. Now it may come crashing down. West Virginia Football Player of the Year was a Parade Magazine All-American and had signed a letter of intent to attend Notre Dame.
Moss says Notre Dame football coach Lou Holtz is planning a trip to West Virginia to talk to Moss about what has happened.
They called me and said, we've taken away his admission to the University of Notre Dame. I was devastated.
Not going to Notre Dame and playing where my dreams and goals was to be an athlete, I guess I just sit down with my mom and whoever else and just set my mind on another school for right now.
It's like having a brother growing up and then expecting to go on a trip together, and then he tells you he can't go.
I flew down and sat down with his mother and Randy about where would you like to go, and I'll see that it happens. Well, they asked my recommendation, and it was either Steve Spurrier or Bobby Bowden.
When Lou Holtz called me about him, it's like a gold mine being handed to you. Now, my president will not let me take him unless we redshirt him. I had to break that news to him. But he agreed to do that. I said, Randy, you've got to walk the straight and narrow path.
We talked to Florida State, and they said, if you get the misdemeanor, he can come. He was battling all that as he would come into the courtroom. But as he spoke, he apologized. He said all the right things.
I'm very sorry that it was hurt so badly. And I apologize to his mother for scaring her so badly.
Before, I respected him pretty much, but I feel differently now.
Ernest Johnson wanted the All-American athlete to serve at least a month, and that's the sentence handed down. Randy Moss must serve 30 days at the South Central Regional Jail over the next 18 months.
The judge required Moss to serve 3 days of his sentence immediately in jail. The rest could come after his freshman year at Florida State.
Before there was a Dennis Rodman, there was a Brian Bosworth. Before even a Deion Sanders, there was a Brian Bosworth.
That's the Boz haircut, they call that. You'll see those all over Oklahoma.
Brian Bosworth was one of the most unique characters out there. He was a creation, no question about that.
And it's our pit. It's not our house. It's a pit. When you walk down the pit, you got to be man enough to walk back up with the victory.
Brian Bosworth had a lot of Barry Switzer in him to begin with, but then once he got with Barry Switzer, it was like father and son there for a few years, because Barry never tried to muzzle him, never told him to back off.
The Boz is highly controversial. He's highly sensational. People either love him or they hate him.
He'd go to tell some writer, yeah, for lunch I bite off the heads of chickens. What do you think of that? And then we'd go back to his house and he'd do a recipe out of Bon Appetit. I mean, he'd make it sound like, you know, he wrote his term papers in blood. He was ahead of everybody, even Madonna, in terms of image.
Boz was some guy that was created for the media, get attention and recognition to him. He said outrageous things. He did outrageous things.
At least I could figure out that the Boz was nothing more than a character. After the theater lights go down and the football game's over with, Brian is Brian.
And I was completely different off the field, but when I was on the field, I hated everybody, teammates included. I knew I needed to be mentally in a different place.
Watch the Boz. He puts a little mustard on this final tackle.
Which was go out there and intimidate, hit as hard as you can. It's not to make a tackle. It's to inflict as much pain and damage on the opposing players as humanly possible.
And he is cut off hard by you-know-who, Bosworth, number 44.
Every tackle was personal. He didn't just hit the quarterback, he tried to mangle him.
Big, he's strong, he may talk a lot, but he backs it all up.
I went for the head. You know, you disrupt the head, you know, the body's going to fall apart anyway.
Bosworth one more time.
People look at Brian Bosworth as somewhat of a circus act, but they forget that he was one heck of a football player.
Brian Bosworth booming him down.
Boy, does he hit. Woo!
He had the mentality of a Ray Nitschke, a Dick Butkus. He had the speed to go sideline to sideline. He was a guy who could do so many things at the linebacker position as a complete player.
With 2 Butkus Awards and a national championship in 1985, the Boz was slammed with a charge that has become commonplace today.
Linebacker Brian Bosworth of Oklahoma and 2 teammates were banned after they tested positive for steroids.
A lot of people, when Brian got tested positive for steroids, said sort of, you know, aha, no wonder.
I'm not ashamed of that. They used one person as a scapegoat or, you know, somebody that could be the poster boy for it.
Bosworth is out of this game, suspended because of his use of steroids some months ago.
Probably the most disappointing thing to me is the fact that I used the format of expressing my opinion about the NCAA on a national stage and upstage to my teammates.
In his wisdom, Brian Bosworth, the suspended linebacker, had this T-shirt made up.
He went too far. Those were selfish things, and they took away from the program, and they took away from him.
At that point in time, I knew I didn't like this guy anymore.
You know, he was excited. He said he was out celebrating, you know, and having a good time. He said he just got back from Boston. You know, he was just out, you know, celebrating with his friend. That's what he said. And then I got his autograph, and we shook hands, and I said, "Take care," and he said, "You bet I will." And then he left.
And then we proceed back up campus, back to the room in Washington Hall.
I was just in my room, chilling on the phone, knock at the door with Lenny.
Len said, "Look, Brian, Terry and David is cool. They know, you know what I'm saying, what's going on, so you can be comfortable with them."
Me, Terry Long, Brian Trouble, Lenny, all went in Terry Long's room. Just sat down, just started talking, drinking cognac.
By them coming in the room didn't frighten me because I already was aware that they knew that I had previously used coke and Len had previously used coke. And we was figuring we'd do some coke, passing it around, people do a couple lines, drink a beer, and it was over a period of hours. It wasn't like we just rushed in to do coke and drink, rush shotgun beers down and stuff like that. Nah, we was chilling, talking.
Then I heard the noise in the other part of the apartment. I knew that they were in the room, that Lenny was in the room. I wasn't sure who was in there with him. So I knocked on the door. Took a couple seconds before they opened the door.
And when different guys came in that were players on the team that we knew they didn't know we used drugs. And again, we didn't want everybody to know. So we would put the coke away and they wouldn't be able to tell that we were doing no more than drinking beers. So they was socially acceptable to beers, but we knew the cocaine wasn't. And we didn't want them to know. So we put it in the drawer. It was on the mirror and closed the drawer.
When I walked in the room, I'm not sure how long they had been there, but they had been there for some time. At the time, all I saw was liquor in the room. There was not liquor and beer. I didn't see any drugs, things of that nature.
We could put the coke away and wait for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, till you leave, and then we, you know, bring it back out and we'd start socializing with it again.
At the time, he was sitting in the chair. Then when he came to sit on the bed, just chilling, stretching up, like laying back a little bit, like he's just like resting. Or we still talking and stuff.
I seen him lean over and sit on the bed and then lay back on the bed.
Then he started having seizures.
The whole atmosphere changed in the room. It blew everybody's high. It blew everybody's enjoyment, and it blew everybody's celebration. And now all the energy and attention, it started transforming into a tragedy. It started transforming into limb bias. What's going on? Is this serious? You know, what's wrong with him? Why is he having seizures? And so the energy and the mood and the tone changed, I mean, just swiftly.
At that time, Brian Tribble knew what was going on. Called someone.
At some point, I wanted help, and the person I could think of was my mother because of seizures, and my sister who had seizures. So I figured there was some connection there. This is healthy, strong limb bias who I've worked out with, who we've ran together and lift weights together. I know he's not doing drugs like that. I know that this is a small part of his life. I know that, you know what I mean, seizures and death don't go together. So I know that this isn't gonna end in a tragedy. There's no way. I'm unwilling to believe that. And as things unfold, it seemed like he wasn't breathing. And I figured this is not a normal seizure that I've ever seen. It's something's bigger than this. And there's no need to waste any time. You know, let's get it done. Let's call 911.
Major County emergency. Yeah, I have an ambulance come. Football room. 1103 Washington Hall. It's an emergency with limb bias. And he just went to Boston, and he needs some assistance.
What are you talking about?
Huh?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about someone needs, limb bias needs help.
Well, it doesn't matter what his name is. What's the problem?
He's not breathing right.
What's your name?
My name is Brian.
Brian what?
Tribble.
Tribble?
Yes, sir. Limb bias. You have to get him back to life. There's no way he can die. Sir. Please come quick.
Please, anybody help me. Gotta get him back. And that's how I felt. I felt the pressure was on me.